Thank you for waiting and welcome to this online event from Pearson. Before I get started, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. We'll let you, so we'll Thank you for waiting and welcome to this online event from Pearson. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items let you know how to participate in today's event. Before we discuss how to download any associated materials and use the platform, I'd like to inform you this session will be recorded for regulatory purposes and for quality assurance. You'll have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenter anytime by typing your questions into the chat box, which is located at the bottom right of your screen. To enter a question or comment, type into the bottom section of chat window and hit enter on your keyboard. At this time, everyone is shown in mute, but will have the control to unmute themselves, so please stay on mute if you don't need to speak. We encourage everyone to save your questions until the presentation ends so that everyone will have the full grasp of the topic at the hand prior to posting your questions to the presenter. To queue for questions, click on raise hand at the menu bar at the bottom. If you see this, click on the labeled participants and select raise hand. Otherwise, try holding Alt and the letter Y on your keyboard. Our presenter for today is Colin Whittaker, so it's with a great pleasure that I hand you to over him now. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Mark. And hello, everyone. My name is Colin Whittaker. I'm the Senior Standards Verifier for BTEC Public and Protective Services. I'm also the Chief Examiner for the External Assessments. Today, the focus of today's event is to go through about external assessment. And to start with, I am going to share my screen with you. And then we'll put a PowerPoint up onto the screen we're going to frame the event around. So the aims is to consider the importance of planning for the exam units, look at the resources that are available, and I will be taking you to the website and showing you where those resources are. Look at the structure and questions in both of the two units, Unit 2 and Unit 6. So as I'm sure you know, on the RQF Uniform Protective Services, we have a blend of internal and external assessments, as well as the Pearson set theme for Unit 1, which we set the theme for, but you mark. Today we're focusing on the internal units, which are Unit 2 and the external units, which are Unit 2 and Unit 6. Your grades that your students can achieve on Unit 2 and Unit 6 are the same as their internal assessments, so that's pass, merit, or distinction. However, they can also be awarded an N grade, which is a near pass. The N grade is there and is set between 0 and the pass boundary, and it is different for every series. We reset the grade every series. And it is for students who have performed quite well, but not quite performed enough to get the pass. A student can still achieve their overall qualification with an N grade, or they can resit, as you'll see as we go through today's presentation. The infographic on the screen at the moment will talk through about the whole assessment plan, and what we're encouraging you to do, because today's event is focused on external assessment, we would like to encourage you to put your external assessment units on your assessment plan, because it does allow you to think about your workload and your students' workloads as far as managing their assessment is concerned. It also allows you to think about how you're timetabling and making sure that you have got a strategy as far as actually when your students are going to sit the exams. And with that in mind, it's really important that you think about the external assessment dates as well. They are published early in the academic year so that you can work around those. I'm not going to spend a great deal of time going through the structure, but the two units, as you can see, Unit 2, that external assessment is the one that is mandatory across all of the sizes of Uniform Protective Service qualifications. So from certificate all the way through to extended diploma, all students are required to do the Unit 2 exam. Unit 6 is only available at the two largest sizes, so that's for the diploma and the extended diploma. We envisage that most centres will get their students to sit Unit 6 exam in the second year of the programme, which is why it is only valid against the two largest sizes. We don't say they have to sit it in the second year if you enrolled on a 2-year learning aim, but it is something we advise, is that they get Unit 2 done in the first year and Unit 6 in the second. For both of the qualification, both of the units, there are 2 series of external assessments. Your learners have access to an exam in January and have access to an exam in June. A slight change since the slides were made. Once they've sat their exam and you've got the results, the students can resit that exam. And currently, although always check the advice for the academic year you're delivering in, but currently students can have 2 resits. So they can attempt their first attempt and then they can have 2 resits after that. Okay. It's for you as a centre to decide when your learners are going to deliver, to sit the exams, whether you want them to sit both exams in January and in June to give a resit opportunity within year, or are you getting your first years to sit their Unit 2 exam in May and then the Unit 6 exam in January in the second year, with resit opportunities then in January for Unit 2 and June for Unit 6. We do not stipulate when you do that. That is entirely up to you. You know your learners best. You will know when you're able to get the content delivered sufficiently to and prepare them for these assessments. As far as resources are concerned, we have got, for Unit 2, we have the guidance on the web, and there is also a delivery guide. So if I go now over to the internet, this is our internet site that has got the landing page for our unit. If you go onto course materials, okay, within here you've got all of the past papers along with the mark schemes and the examiner reports for both Unit 2 and Unit 6. I really strongly advise you to make use of the examiner reports, because within that we show you examples of what worked well and what hasn't worked as well. And as you can see, as each series is sat, the question papers come on, then the mark scheme will follow it once awarding has taken place, and then shortly after that there will be the examiner report for each series. Under teaching and learning materials, okay, we have got on here additional guidance for Unit 2. So this takes you through for Unit 2 all of the key studies, the obedience theories, conformity theories, and lots of information there that will support the delivery of the spec. Likewise, for Unit 6, okay, we have got a similar thing, which is a learning resource that takes you through, that's got activities, it's got links, lots of information for you that you can use to work with your learners to prepare them for Unit 6. Okay. There are delivery guides on here as well. So Unit 2 delivery guide is there. Unit 6 delivery guide will follow shortly. So we are working our way through and trying to produce as much material as we can to support you in delivering the qualification. Also, we've got the exam wizard. So if I get that up for you. Okay, so on here, you can choose Uniform Protective Services. All right, so on here, you can build your own paper. So you can go on and you can select, so if it's an extended diploma or if it's a foundation diploma, you then would be able to select all the years, all the series for Unit 2. You can then select whether you want some short open responses or do you want all of them. If you targeting a particular, so if you only just started delivering, you might only be looking at AO1, AO2. And then there's lots of questions here. And all you have to do is you can add questions in, and then it will build you the paper. It will build you the mark scheme for the paper. And you also get examiner's reports for the questions that it's used. So I really strongly advise you have a go at Exam Wizard when you're preparing your students for assessment, because it really gives you the opportunity to build a bespoke paper based around the delivery that you've got at that point in the academic year. Okay. Other resources, we've got online digital resources are being developed and they are available for you. They are paid for resources. As I said before, in every series, so every January and every June, as a paper is sat, that will go on there. And then shortly afterwards, it will also be uploaded onto Exam Wizard once everything's finished. So obviously you have to wait until the mark scheme is released and the examiner report is released, and then that will be added to Exam Wizard. So we're relatively new in the series. At the moment, we've had two sittings for both Unit 2 and Unit 6. So we've only got 2 live papers that have been out. By next year, that will have doubled to 4. Okay, and then the following year, that will go up to 6. So as we go through, you've got a whole bank of resources being developed for you that you're able to use to prepare your learners for the external assessments. So if we look at doing a walkthrough of a Unit 2 paper first thing to remember is it's a 2-hour paper and that it's a total of 80 marks. So you've got various different question types. Okay, some are 1, 2, 3, and 4 based. Okay, so if you've got one like we have on the screen here, which is an explain one advantage, it's a 2-mark question. So basically what we're looking for there is the learner to identify an advantage of the type of authority and then give an example or explain why it's an advantage. So it's an extension of the identification of the answer. All of the 1, 2, and 4 are in a very similar basis to that. You may have some 6-mark answers, which are levels based. These are your short open response and your extended open response questions. Okay, with this, this is where it will generally be a discuss or an analyze. Okay, so what we're expecting the learner to do is provide an extended response, and then we will provide a holistic mark that looks at that response. And what you've got there are the differentiators and the different mark bands. So mark band 1 is, as you can see, is quite isolated, a limited discussion. Mark band 2 is partly developed, more information, and mark band 3 is well developed. All of your level-based marks will always, in Unit 2, there will always be a case study or a scenario that is there that this is all linking to. Within Unit 2, there are 3. Section A, Section B, and Section C, and the case study runs through each section, a different case study for each section. Please be aware that if your learner doesn't use the information in that case study and doesn't refer back to it, okay, they will not move out of mark band 1. Okay, as you can see, the second bullet point here, sorry, about the second bullet point there, evidence of application and links to the relevant information. Some points relevant to the context in the question, but the link is not always clear. But if there is no link to the context in the question, they can't get out of mark band 1. Okay. Our 9-mark is similar. This is your analyze. And again, you've got a level-based mark scheme. We'll take a holistic view and we will place it where it fits best on there. But again, if they've not referred back to the case study, they are not going to get back out of mark band 1. They've got to draw links to the information provided to get into mark band 2 or 3. And similarly for the 12. The last question in the paper will always be your 12-mark evaluate. Okay, and again here, we've got 3 mark bands, and we're looking for the learner to use the information provided within the case study to get into mark band 2 or mark band 3. Moving on to unit 6. Okay, unit 6 is a 90-minute paper, okay, based on the with a total of 70 marks. Whereas unit 2 has section A, section B, and section C. Okay, each one based around a different case study. Unit 6 is not like that. Okay, unit 6 does not have a case study at first. Okay, again, it has 1, 2, 3, and 4 mark answers that are very similar to those within unit 2, where if you look at the one that's on the screen, explain 2 responsibilities. They are identify the first responsibility of the Scottish Parliament, then provide an example of it or expand upon it. Then the second responsibility that should be different to the first one, and expand on that again. So it's written in you know, the exam skills that are needed for unit 2 are the same as those needed for unit 6. In unit 6, okay, you will get, there'll be a case study for unit 4 and a case study for unit 5. A case study for question 4 and a case study for question 5. The case study for question 5 will, every likelihood, involve data. If you look at the sample assessment materials and the past papers that are available to you, you will see that each one has data. Can I please reassure you, so that you can reassure your students, that at no point will marks be awarded for mathematical calculation. We are not expecting learners to be able to do any mathematical calculation around this data. What we are expecting learners to be able to do is interpret the data. So what does this data tell you? Okay, so if you look at this one, it's talking about reduction in funding. And so they might be wanting to look around and draw comment about the fact that even though there has been a 17% reduction in real-term funding of the fire authorities, there has still been a fall in the number of primary fires. So they're getting less money, but they are working more effectively with that money. Okay, so that's the kind of thing that they're going to be asked. So they won't be asked what's the difference between the estimate in real terms reduction in spending and the fall in number of fires. There'll be no mathematical calculation like that to do. So if I come off of this for the moment, and we'll go back onto the website, and we'll show you the kind of things that we're talking about. So if I go into January, sorry about this, trying to find the sample assessment materials, but they're not coming up. Let's see if we can get Unit 2's January's exam. Yes, it wouldn't open up at first. Let's go. Okay, so on here, as you can see, you've got the 1 mark, 2 marks, where they've got this scenario at the top of Mario being a Royal Marine. And that scenario follows itself all the way through this section. Okay, and this is the kind of extended response. All right, so if the learner simply writes everything they know about Ash's paradigm on and puts it on the paper, they might get 1 or 2 marks, but they won't move out of that. Whereas if they talk about that in relation to Leonard's willingness to conform, then that's when they get into the higher mark bands. Likewise, if we look at Unit 6's question paper, as you can see, there's no scenario or case study all the way through until you get to question 4, where they've got an extract and then questions linking back to that extract. And here 9 marks, assess. Okay, they've got to link that back to the extract and draw some information out of that. And then we move on to question 5. You can see that we've got some data here. And then the questions lead on from that data. And again, if they don't use that data, then you're not going to get out of Mark Band 1. Okay, so hopefully that's a whistle-stop tour for you of the external assessments that are required within the Uniform Protective Service spec at level 3. Hopefully you found that useful. There will be further events coming up where we're looking at external assessment, and we may be putting some talk-throughs from lead examiners about the different papers, so that we can go through the paper and tell you what went well and what didn't, and give you some tips and tricks. And so we're hoping to record those and have those available for you as well. On the screen now, you've got a telephone number that you can call in with any questions that you might have. And there is also a support portal, which is available on the web, where you can type questions in and send any questions you might have. But that concludes today's presentation. Hopefully you found it useful, and I look forward to hearing from you in the future.